Hi guys. So we're going to talk about quartiles, box plots, and what we'll call the 5-number summary of data. So let's begin by recalling the median, because that's really the central tool in all of this. So median, which we can nickname as the middle value. And why would we call it that? Well, recall that what the median essentially does is it divides our data into the bigger half and the smaller half. So divides data into bigger half and smaller half. Now I put these in quotation marks because the bigger half and the smaller half are not necessarily half of the data. So to some examples, right? Let's say, suppose our data looks like 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, all right? So this has an odd number of data points, so the median equals 2. That's nice. And then our bigger half is everything to the right of the median value. So that's this group here, bigger half. And everything to the left of the median is what we would call the smaller half. And of course, the smaller half plus the bigger half does not equal the whole thing because neither of them include the median value. Right? And that's the convention we're going to go with. On the other hand, if our data set had an even number of values in it, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, then the median would equal the average of the middle two, so in this case 2.5. And since there is no data point that corresponds to the median, we have the upper half and the lower half actually do divide the data set into half in this case. So this would be the upper half, or bigger half, whatever you want to call it, and this would be lower half or smaller half. All right. So roughly speaking, so just in summary, right? Roughly speaking, approximately 50% of the data is bigger than median, and roughly 50% of the data is smaller than the median. So that's roughly speaking, but that is important to always keep in mind. All right, so what is the purpose of talking about the median of data? So the purpose is to give you some sense about the data set without having to go through all the data points, to somehow summarize the data set. And so let's write this down. So purpose of all this, summarize data. So now the issue with this is just knowing the median value and maybe the max and min is not really enough to give you a good picture of the data. So problem. So median by itself is not enough info all the time. So the solution to this, to give you a more detailed view of the dataset while still summarizing it, is what we'll call quartiles. So solution. Quartiles. So, what are quartiles? Well, quartiles, there's 3 of them, and they're called quartiles because they divide the data set into 4 pieces. So we have Q1, so that's Q1, our first quartile, Q2, our second quartile, and Q3, our third quartile. And these are numbers, just like the median. So in fact, Q2, our second quartile, is simply the median. So this is the median. And then Q3 is the median of the upper half. So median of upper half. And then Q1 is the median of the lower half. And together with the lowest value and the highest value, this gives us what we call a 5-number summary. So 5-number summary is so lowest value or left endpoint. I guess we'll just say lowest, Q1, Q2, Q3, and then the highest. So these 5 numbers are what we call the 5-number summary. And it's a way of summarizing a potentially large data set with 5 numbers that gives you a kind of idea where the majority of the numbers are sitting and how they're distributed. And we'll do a bunch of examples with this to get more comfortable with it. For now, let's look at an example of the data set are 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. Right? So in this case, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 9 data points. So our median, since it's an odd number, our median will be the middle value, and they're arranged. They've already been sorted. So the middle value is just the 5th one in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's this value. So this is our median. So this is also Q2, right? And now what we want is to take the median of the upper half and the median of the lower half. This is upper half, lower half. And that'll give us our Q1 and our Q3. So the median of these 4 numbers, if there's an even number of numbers, right, there's no actual middle value, so we have to take the average of the middle 2. The average of the middle 2 is 1.5. So this equals Q1. And then again, the average of the middle 2 here equals 3.5. So what we would say is lowest equals 1. That's just simply the left data point. Then we have Q1 equals 1.5. Q2 equals 2, Q3 equals 3.5, and then the highest equals 5. And this is our 5-number summary. Of that data set. Now, the 5-number summary is often plotted in what we will call a box plot. So I'm running out of space, so I will move over here. So box plot. This is just a way of plotting the 5-number summary. So again, we had our 5-number summary was lowest was 1, then Q1 was 1.5, Q2 was 3.5, oh no, Q2 was 2, Q3 was 3.5, and then or our highest was 5. So the way we plot this is we have a number line. We'll put at the endpoints, right, our highest and lowest. So we have 1 here and 5 here. Now we'll mark out each quartile. So say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is just our number line, right? And we have so this is our x-axis. We've got 1 through 5, and now to make our box plot, we start at the left endpoint. We draw a line all the way to our right endpoint, and then mark off where our quartiles are. So we have Q1 was at 1.5, Q2 is at 2, Q3 was at 3.5, so that's here, and then we have our endpoint there. Now, why this is called a box plot is because starting at Q1, which is right here, we put a box, goes down up to Q3. Oops, hand slipped. And this is a box plot of the 5-number summary. And what it tells you is that, well, it shows you that this data set is kind of skewed to the left. Our median is way down here, and our middle 50% is right here. All right, so what do I mean by middle 50%? Well, the point of quartiles, so if a median split things into a top half and a lower half, quartiles split things into a bottom 25%, the next 25%, the next 25%, the next 25%. So again, roughly speaking, we have 25, a quarter of our data, 25% between lowest and Q1, 25% between Q1 and Q2, roughly the next 25% between Q2 and Q3, and of course the top 25% between Q3 and the highest. Okay. So what that means is that since we put our box going from Q1 to Q3, right, that's this box here, that box contains 50% of the data roughly. When I say roughly is because whether or not the data even splits into 4 equal parts, well, that depends if it's divisible by 4 or not. And so potentially there'll be ones that are exactly on the edges that aren't included, and so it won't be exactly 25% or exactly 50%. But, in roughly speaking, it's true. And that's the whole point of these summaries, is to get a rough idea. So that's why we really don't care about being as exact. All right, so with this defined, let's move to the worksheet and just work through some examples. So give the 5-number summary for the following data set. All right, so the endpoints are always given. We know that the lowest is 1 and the highest is 13, but let's figure out what the quartiles are first. So the first thing to do is to find the median. So let's see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it's all the numbers 1 through 13. So that's an odd number of data points. So we find the exact middle value. So so we count, so 13 is odd, so there's a middle number, so it's going to be after the first 6. And so we can split the data set into 2 parts like this, and then 7 is in the middle. So 7 is the median. And then these 2 halves, we take the median of those to find the quartiles. So this is Q2. So for the top half, right, there's 6, that's even, so we have to take the average of the middle 2. So Q3 equals 10.5. And then we have to do the same thing for the bottom half. So Q1 equals 3.5. So our lowest is 1, then Q1 is 3.5, Q1, and Q2 is our median, which was 7, Q3 is 10.5, and of course the highest is 13. This is our 5-number summary. All right. Let's do this again. So, all right, here we have some repeating values. But again, let's see how many data points we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So there's an even number this time. So we have to find the middle 2. So we look at the first 7, so that's these. And this is the second 7, and then the middle 2 are these ones right here. So the median equals 2.5, the average of these 2. And now we can split the data set exactly into halves on either side of the median this time, right? And then we look at the median of those. So then the median of the upper half gives us Q3. And let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's an odd number now, so you can just pull out the middle value, which is this one right here. So Q3 is 4. And again, there's going to be 7, so we just pull out the middle value, which is this data point here, which is 1. So Q1 equals 1. So in this case, the first quartile is the same as the lowest value, but that's fine. That's just the way it is. So we have lowest is 1, Q1 is 1. Q2, that's our median. That's 2.5. Q3 is 4. And then our highest is 9. So what this summary tells us is that this data set, while it goes from 1 to 9, is very much skewed towards the lower end. Right? And we can get that just from the 5-number summary. In fact, the lowest and the first quartile are the same numbers, so it tells you that roughly a quarter of the values are 1, and then we get a quarter of the values going from 1 to 2.5. So already half the values are below 2.5, even though the numbers go all the way up to 9. 75% of them are below 4, the third quartile, right? All right, so with the 5-number summary, you get a similar picture as if you had all the data before you, which is why it's useful, right? All right, so I'll let you guys do C on your own, and let's move on to the next problem. So suppose the following box plot describes data collected about the number of pages in a collection of books. So this is saying that the median is 150. So median equals 150 pages. And then the smallest book has 50 pages and the largest book has 400 pages. And then the first quartile is 100. So this equals, so 100 is Q1, 250 is Q3, right? This is the median. All right, so what fraction of the books have more than 100 pages? Well, recall that in each section, between each division, we have roughly 25% of the collection. So we have roughly 25% here between Q1 and Q2, another 25% here between Q2 and Q3, and then another 25% here between Q3 and the highest value. Okay? So this is roughly 25%. This is another 25%. This is another 25%. So more than 100 pages is everything except for things below the first quartile. So this should be roughly 75% of the collection has more than 100 pages. I hope that was clear. All right, so that's using a box plot to summarize the data. All right. So for the last question, we're going back to our bar charts, which is sort of brings it full circle. So suppose the following histogram represents quiz scores from a class of 15 students. Scores are out of 10 points. All right, so one person scored a perfect score. All right, give the 5-number summary of this data and make a box plot for it. Well, so there's really 2 ways we could go about this. We could simply turn the bar chart into a data set. So like, we know there's one person scored a 3, 3 people scored a 5, so we go 5, 5, 5, etc. And we'd get 15 data points, then we just do exactly what we've been doing. But I want to actually use the bar chart to help us this time. So let's do that. Let's do it that way. And you're free to do it however you like. If you were asked a similar question, I don't really mind, but I just want to show you how we might use the bar chart to help us. That color doesn't look great. All right, so we know our first goal, so first find median. So there's an odd number of scores, there's an odd number of people, so we know that the median is going to be the middle score. So there's going to be 7 below the median and 7 above the median, and then the median is going to be right in the middle. And so we can just look at the, move up the bar chart until we've accumulated 7 scores, and then we'll know that the next one is the median. So, right, we have one person who scored a 3. Then we have 3. So we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, so these 7 scores are then below this guy, which is the 8th score if we were to arrange these in order, right? So this one is the middle score because there's 7 below it, and it is a 7. So this tells us that the median is a 7. And of course there's 7 above it too. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 above it, 7 below it, it's in the middle, it's a 7. So the median is a 7. And we can do this for the bottom half and the top half as well. So they each consist of 7, so they also will have a middle value. So right, there'll be 3 below the median and 3 above the median. So now, right, let's look at the top half. So that's maybe I need to use a different color. Does purple show up? Not really. Alright, whatever. I'll use pink. So the top half is these scores, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So our median is the middle value. There's 3 above it, 3 below it is right here, and it is an 8. So Q3 is 8, and now we just do the same thing for the bottom half, which consists of these scores here. So again, after there's 7 of them, so there'll be 3 below the median, 3 above the median. So our median of these is right here, this 4, which is, it's in the order, it's 4, and it is a score of 5. So Q1 is 5. Alright, so then we have lowest is 3. Our Q1 is 5. Q2, or median, was 7. Q3 was 8. And then highest was 10. So a box plot for this, well, we already have an x-axis here, so I'll put it on the same chart as as our bar chart. It goes, and vertically where the box plot is doesn't really matter. So 3 is right here. I'm going to erase this. So our left endpoint is here for our box plot. Our highest is 10, which is right here. And then Q1 is at 5, which is right here. Q3 is at 8, which is right here. and our median is a 7, which is right here. So then our box plot looks like that. And yeah, so recall that the box plot shows you that half the scores are inside the box, and then half of them are outside the box on either the top quartile or the bottom quartile. And then within this middle 50%, we've got half of them are here and half of them are here. All right, so that's it. Yeah, I hope that made sense, and you can always ask me questions about anything that maybe didn't make sense. All right, bye.